Professor Singer, Dr. Neusel, Mrs. Neusel, Mr. Stefan Eck, Melanie Joy, PETA, Bacon Society, and other animal organizations that are here. Out of the blue, I got an email from Dr. Neusel saying that he was going to give an award to Peter Singer, and he was going to make this award the Peter Singer Award for other people in future. And would I come? I live a billion miles away, the other half of the world. And I immediately thought that there has to be a reason for me to be here. And as God would have it, I had to go to Stockholm. And so, from Stockholm, I've flown here. And it's a deep, and I'm truly privileged to be here with a person who I've admired for the last, 30 years at least, for having given the philosophical underpinnings to the animal welfare movement. No movement has any credibility unless there is a philosophy behind it, unless there is paper. An army marches on paper. And an army marches on because it needs someone to put the strength into it. And Professor Singer, more than anyone else, has put the sense of purpose into this movement. My name is Maneka Gandhi. I've been doing animal welfare since forever. And I'm a 7-time member of Parliament. And now I am the Minister for Women and Children in the government, and it's my 4th stint as minister. I invented the environment and animal welfare portfolio in the government when I was 32 and became minister for the first time. And it's quite robust till now. I now head something called People for Animals. Again, something that I learned to organize from Ingrid Newkirk of PETA. And there are many, many heroes in this movement. All of us have trodden lonely and long and very hard paths. It's heartening now to realize that what was seen as a crackpot movement, at least in India, a movement which crazy old women went into, women who had nothing better to do. It was not seen as a male movement at all. And now we have doctors and scientists and teachers and people like you and students, and it's so amazing to see all of you in a movement that brings together vegetarianism, veganism, animal welfare, philosophy, everything. It just encompasses a new world. I'm going to spend a little bit just talking to you about India. But before I begin, I'm going to tell you one thing that I learned and which has shaped my life. I don't remember where I read it, but it was a very, very powerful survey done in America in a particular area. And what it tried to find out was that when political change takes place, when a law is passed, is it passed because people want it, because people have created an atmosphere, or is it passed because one person has been sitting in the right place at the right time? And they found that 91% of all good that had been done, or laws that had been passed, had been done because a person was in the right place at the right time, a bureaucrat, a politician. And only 9% was because people had demonstrated or come forward. That changed my life. So I went into politics. I hung in there through trials and tribulations and being an independent and everything, only because I was determined to be that person in the right place at the right time. And these are some of the things that we have achieved. Even now, my aim, which I haven't been terribly successful about, is to get a second politician to get in there to be the right person. So in 1980, my husband died. I was 23 years old, and my son was 100 days. And he left me a teeny amount of money, just 800,000 rupees, which would translate as, I think, 20,000 marks or something. And with that money, instead of thinking about myself or my son, I built India's first animal shelter. And that then set the movement, because my husband taught me one thing, that before you preach, before you try to turn anybody, you have to do it yourself. Anything you do is going to be far more life-changing than anything you say. So I built the shelter. Today I have 36 shelters in India, all of which work free. Then I started a TV show called Heads and Tails. We had only one TV channel. And every week I used to go onto a TV show, and for half an hour I would show you how a chicken becomes a chicken sandwich and how a cow would become the beef on your table. And it was such a revolting program that it made lots and lots of people vegetarians. Even now, hundreds of people come up to me and say that changed my life. So that went on for 5 years. And from there, I started a friendlier program called Maneka's Ark, where we interviewed wonderful people across India who had done amazing things with animals and put their lives out. I finally formed a group called People for Animals in 1999. And 1991, sorry. And the first thing I did was to stop the killing of dogs. Across India, like in many countries in the world, if you have stray dogs, you kill them. So we were killing about 40 lakh, that's 4 million dogs a year. So the first thing I did was, I contacted a teeny-weeny judge. You have hierarchies of judges. You have municipal judges, then high court judges, and Supreme Court judges. So I contacted a municipal judge, and I said, I'm about to bring a case to you, and could you please give me this answer? So we wrote out the judgment even before the case. And he was good enough because he was an animal activist, and he wrote out the judgment saying, no more animal killing. And his judgment didn't apply to anybody except the borough. But by then I had become so strong and vociferous, the TV programs, the column that I write till today for 30 plus papers, that I went to each city and I said, the court has said that you have to stop animal killing. And nobody questioned which court. They assumed that it was the Supreme Court. So, and I didn't do it in Delhi because I knew I'd be caught out. So then I first went to Bombay, and they said, well, if the Supreme Court said it, then we'll stop it. And in India, it's such fun because we exist in a state of total confusion. So they stopped it. And then from Bombay, I went to Madras, Chennai. And I said, Bombay has stopped it, so we have to stop it now. So they stopped it in Chennai. And then they said, well, Bombay stopped it, we have to stop it. Then I went to Calcutta, and they said, well, if everybody else is stopping it. And then when I finally did the whole round of India and came back to Delhi, and they said, so the whole of India stopped it, so we might as well stop it. So we stopped it. So till today. And then finally, when I became minister again, I finally stopped it legally, instead of BSing my way through it. But by then, it stopped. And so now we have no more killing of dogs. We have sterilization and vaccination, and we're doing well. The second thing I did was stop dissection in schools. And because in every school you had to dissect frogs and rats and rabbits in order to become a doctor. And I just went ballistic and said, we're not going to become rat doctors. And in some schools they were just doing cockroaches, and it was so frightening because people like me who want to study biology wouldn't touch it. So I fought a long battle. Finally today, we have no dissection in schools, we have no dissection in colleges, we have no dissection in zoology, in junior medical schools. We have no dissection except in postgraduate medical college and in the laboratories that everyone from Europe is sending us secretly to experiment on, so that they can declare the results here of medicines and stuff, which is really illegal, but it's happening. Those are the two dissections that take place. But, sooner or later, we'll get our teeth into them. The third thing we did was, we went to court and we won a case. I didn't really go to court. I went, but then I was minister again. So I got the Consumer Affairs Minister to declare red and green dots on everything that's eaten in India, so that you know whether you're eating vegetarian or non-vegetarian. And this was a harder battle than I had anticipated, because even though we are very, very keen on vegetarianism, a lot of products that pass themselves off as vegetarian were actually non-vegetarian. And so they then went ballistic and mounted a huge campaign saying we don't want these dots. So in any case, we won them, and now we have red and green dots. And of last year, I've started the campaign to put red and green dots now on shampoos, soaps, and other things that people don't know have got animal things in them. The other campaign that we started, which will come through in about a month, is our capsules, our medicine capsules. People don't know that they're made of gelatin. And so vegetarians shouldn't be having them. So now we're going to make order that all capsules are to be vegetarian, made out of agar, I think. Anyway, from then we went on to make rules for transport and slaughter of animals. And then we did something else, which is something other people could learn from. A lot of films, we make about 1,000 films a year. And many of those films used animals as props. So there were heroes and villains fighting in chicken coops and throwing chickens at each other. There were heroes wrestling with tigers who had already been given an injection to drug them and had their nails removed. We had heroines with snakes wrapped around them. Everything was weird. So I got an order passed, and then we reinforced it by going to court and winning. And it holds till now. Anybody using animals for any purpose in any film has to go to the Animal Welfare Board, which I created when I was 32, when I was Minister for Environment, and they have to get a certificate saying that this animal is not being mistreated, and this animal needs to be there. The film can't be made without it. The end result was that no films now use animals except in a very tentative way and with very, very strict safeguards. So there are no more fighting scenes, there's no more uselessness of animals losing their lives in it. Now recently we've also I started writing books, because the movement was growing and growing and growing, both in animal welfare, vegetarianism, environment, but there was no book underpinning. So we wrote the first book of animal laws, then I wrote 37 others, which gave you information on how to make a shelter, how to do other things, just how-to books. And then we wrote there was not even one first aid book for animals in India. So I wrote a book on first aid for animals. So we went into the medical side, the other, all the sides, and we just put the books in. And we just finished a new book done after so many years, on how to make a shelter, because there is no such book in the whole world. So it's how to make and run a shelter. Now, the law book that I put together, we now are going to have it taught from next month onwards in 1,400 law schools across India in special subjects called animal welfare. Then another thing that we did, was an order that all wild animals should be out of circuses. So there are no wild animals in our circuses. And now this order was given 15 years ago. And so all tigers, lions, elephants were taken out. Now what's left in circuses are horses, dogs, birds. And now we've just given an order last year saying all animals now out of circuses. So those are now being wrapped up. It's taking time because they go to court, then we have to win each case individually, but we're winning. So far, out of 28 circuses that we have, we've wrapped up 4. So it'll happen. Then another thing we did was finish the bear trade. I don't know if any of you have ever seen this awful, miserable trade in which these brown bears would be made to stand and dance. And it was a great tourist attraction in India. When you went to see the Taj Mahal, on the way you'd see hundreds of bears lined up, and you just stopped and you'd pay money to give them Coca-Cola and give them a hamburger, even though they're vegetarian animals. You could dance with them. And the whole trade was so awful because we were losing our bears by the million. And so we stopped the trade, and now nobody can even remember that it happened. But it took a long, long battle, and now we have 2 shelters for all the bears that we rescued. And we've gone from, I can't tell you all that we did, because every day, if we don't achieve something, then there's me to contend with. So it's like offerings that everybody rings up and says, I stopped a truck and I saved these animals, and I got this animal out of a zoo, and I saved a snake. Because so much animal cruelty goes on all the time, especially in a country like India, where snakes and monitor lizards are burnt as aphrodisiacs, where the pangolin is, we have China next to us. China is absorbing all our animals. All our animals are being taken out and into China. And it's like putting fingers in holes in the wall. And nobody is doing a treaty with China because they don't believe in it. So last year we had 8,000, 9,000 pangolins taken because the Chinese like pangolin scales. They use them in their local medicine. Completely useless because the scale is made out of keratin. And keratin, which is what hair is made out of, has no curative value at all. But I mean, try telling the Chinese that. Our rhinoceroses are being killed all the time, and just so that then, horns are sawn off and sent off to China. But in spite of that, we're doing okay. At least we think we're doing okay. We have, 2 months ago, we stopped shark finning. And that's a major, major achievement, which I never thought we'd do. India was supplying 98% of all the shark fins in the world. And we were supplying them to China, to Hong Kong and Singapore, where they're eaten only because it's a status symbol. It has no value at all, neither in protein, in nothing. It's just a horrible lump of fiber. And how they are brought in is that fishermen in large trawlers, not even small boats, large trawlers go out, catch millions of fish who anyway die, throw them back, take the various sharks out of them, cut their fins off, and then throw them back live into the water, where they die hugely and agonizingly. And with the, so finally, we were sending about 40 million sharks a year, or maybe more. So now it's completely stopped. In just one day, we got an order, and that was it. So these are some of the things we do. And then another thing we've done is, Bangladesh was eating all our camels. For some reason, the Bangladeshis decided that they wanted to eat camel meat. So within 5 years, we went from having 400,000 or 500,000 camels to having 40,000 camels, and putting IUCN has put them on the endangered species list. Strange, and we can't do without camels because we have a huge desert which is still serviced by camels. But every day I would stand on the road and there'd be trucks coming by full of camels, and what they do is that they close their mouths and they tie up the hands and legs and put them one on top of each other like sandwiches. And then we'd stand and rescue them, and it was really heartrending. And many of my people were sent to jail because the police takes a lot of money for illegal transport. So anyway, so now we've got a law saying camels can't go out of Rajasthan and they can't be eaten. So that's another thing that we've done. I've got my recent cases in court are to stop horses in the cities. We still have these horses being taken for tourism purposes, in those chariots, what we call the Victorian chariots, where tourists come and then go. And those animals all have arthritis. They're horribly, horribly misused. And then we have them for weddings as well. Lots of people need horses for weddings. So we've got a case in court which should be over in about a month. It's been on for 4 years. And the other case we've got on is to stop all bird sale. We have got over 2 million or 3 million birds being sold. Many birds smuggled in from Australia via Singapore. Just, they come in through the ports illegally, through Calcutta, and then they go through the rest of India. So one is to stop bird sale, then pet shop laws. These are some of the things that we've got on the anvil. What I really do want, and which I'd started doing until I was interrupted, was in 2001, I made a university for animal welfare. It's called the National Institute for Animal Welfare, and it would have degrees for people to come in to get MAs and MScs and BAs and BScs and diplomas. And the reason why I wanted this enormously was because we need to have academic acceptance. We need to be accepted as serious people instead of just crazies. So this building has been built. I worked out 63 courses. I got in touch with Oxford and Cambridge, both of whom had animal welfare divisions. And both these wonderful people, I forget their names, agreed to help me. The UNEP gave me $10,000 to buy books for the library to begin with, and we were all set, and then our government lost its job. And from then till now, it's been lying there like a ruin. And hopefully, I've been trying to persuade the Minister for Environment to restart it. These are some of the things we do. And I can't say that we are, successful to the extent that I would like to be successful. I completely feel every day that, like all of us do, that, oh, what a miserable failure I am. And what a miserable failure my life has been. And yet the first time when we rescue one animal, it makes my heart leap. Our lives are full of magic. Everything that we do comes together when some magic happens. I have a house in Delhi, which I got from the Communist Party headquarters, and it was completely cemented over, nothing, it was sterile. And when I got it, I just picked up all the tar and let the earth come through, and it's right next to Parliament. I mean, it's right bang in the middle of the city. And then I just planted trees, and I've been there for 12 years. And it's a forest now. And every morning, 15 monkeys come in, and we feed them. And then they sit about, they laze about in the trees, and I just think, thank you, God. Thank you for allowing me this. And sometimes when people, I remember one day, somebody came in and said, oh, we rescued all these turtles, these tortoises, because one part of India eats them. And they flip them upside down, they slit their stomachs, and then they keep dipping little mugs in and catching the blood and drinking it. So we rescue them all over. And then these 200-year-old, huge big things, these massive claws. And they unloaded them in my house. And they, we had already 10 or 15 rescued dogs, including blind and deaf ones and three-legged ones and stuff. And these turtles running behind after the dogs. And I just thought it was amazing that we had monkeys and turtles and dogs. And then in the evening, as it so happened, that same day, somebody came and said, I rescued 48 snakes. So they left them in what we call pitaras, bamboo boxes. And at night, all of them escaped. And in the morning, we were busy trying to find snakes in my house. And so many, because I'm also a politician, people come in the whole day. And I can say, don't come in today, we've got snakes here. So we caught them all. But it's just such a joyful life when it's full of, I wish I could do more. Last year, I had to give a lecture in Africa on how to start off animal welfare. And I hardly ever go out, hardly, because I can do nothing to change the world. I can just do something to change India. So I said that I'll write you a letter instead on what you should do, a teaching thing. And while I was writing it, I thought, why the hell am I going to teach Africa? I might as well teach India. So for the first time, I wrote a little pamphlet, this one, on what should be done for animal welfare. And in that, I listed 105 things that I want to achieve before I die. And it's, slaughterhouse reforms. I want to ban leather shoes in schools because it's part of our British legacy. And it's a hot country, we don't need leather. And yet it takes one cow can only make 4 shoes. That's 2 pairs. And imagine all our children have to wear leather shoes. And it hurts their feet, it's bad for them, the polish is carcinogenic. So I'm trying to get that stopped. I'd like rabbit fur import to be stopped. I've had emu farming stopped, which came in from Australia. I'd like aquarium rules to be made and no fish to be sold because now we're smuggling all sorts of rare fish outside. We've stopped carrying, I've banned live animals in trains. I've also managed to almost stop all animal sacrifice in temples. But I'd like to do many, many other things. So it's a 105 list, of which perhaps in my short life, I have managed to do a few, and hopefully we'll do more. Before I finish, I'd like to just share one more thing with you. The future is almost upon us. More than what I can do and what you can do, saving single animals, changing policies. There are groups of people all over the world who are going to the next level of animal welfare, and that is producing meat in other ways. No matter how hard we try, we are never ever going to stop people from eating meat. It kills me that no matter how much I proselytize and how much we all spend time doing, we have not been able to stop meat eating from getting even less. You can talk about Berlin becoming vegan, but we're making up for it in Delhi with 1,000 vegans eating meat, because it's become fashionable and a way to prove how Western we are for vegetarians to become non-vegetarian. So meat eating now, it had hit its highest level since the birth of civilization in 2008, and now it's even more. So there are groups in, like these young people who sat in Silicon Valley and changed the world with their startups and their Microsofts and Yahoos and stuff. Like that, there is a girl called Isha Datar in New Horizons, who is now getting money together to pay people to make egg white from egg white cells, eggs from egg cells, meat from meat cells, milk from milk cells. There are two boys called Perumal Gandhi and Ravi Pandya, who have made a group called Move Free, MUUFRII. Look it up on the net. And by this year, they will have invented milk, which is made from milk cells. There's another group which is very successful, which has made egg white from egg white cells. This is where the future lies. 20 years from now, if people who want to eat meat can eat meat and still have that taste and that crunch and whatever they want, because meat tastes disgusting. But the point is, you want to disguise it with all sorts of spices and this and that. So if they find it, the spices can disguise whatever this passes of it, then maybe we will be able to do much better. So if we were to find funding for all these people, we could help them change the world. This is where I see the world as going. Mark Post in the Netherlands was the first person to make a hamburger 2 years ago or 3 years ago out of animal cells. And the hamburger cost $200,000. But the point is, so did the first Microsoft computer. So do anything in the beginning. The idea is that this is one of the strong ways in which we could get our young biochemists to invest their time in. Thank you very much. And again, please allow me to thank you, especially Dr. Neusel, who gave me this rare honor and privilege of meeting a hero of mine, Professor Singer, and all of you. And Melanie Joy, who has invented the word carnism, which again will be part of our philosophy and word usage in times to come. Thank you.